Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala sayyidil anbiya'i wal mursaleen. Wa ba'd. The world that we live in functions on asbab, cause and effect. That is the process of this world. If a person wants to earn a living, they need to work. If a person wants a result, they need to put in the effort. And there's nothing wrong with, as a Muslim, understanding that things happen through causes. But what should never leave our mind as a Muslim is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the musabbibul asbab. Everything has a cause and there's an effect, but from the Muslim perspective, every cause has an ultimate cause. Meaning, if there's a fire, if I put my hand in it, it's going to burn. But what makes the fire burn is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore, if Allah wants, the fire will burn. If Allah wants, the fire will not burn. As we see in the example of Ibrahim alayhi salam. قُلْنَا يَا نَارُ كُونِي بَرْدًا وَسَلَامًا عَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ, that the cause of and the power of fire is to burn. And Ibrahim alayhi salam put inside of it should mean that he feels pain. But let's not forget that the ultimate cause is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if He chooses for that fire to be cool, the complete opposite, it can be. Kun fayakun. The reason this is important for us to remember is, in a time where everything is based on numbers, strength, how many people support a cause, how loud are certain voices, who has the media narrative, who has the backing and support of political powers. Yes, the world operates with cause and effect. That generally speaking, when there's more numbers, there tends to be a more favorable outcome. When people have the support of bigger groups, they tend to be more successful, generally speaking. But just like the fire can burn or not burn, depending on the hukum of Allah, let's never for a moment lose sight of the fact that if Allah wants, He can make us successful even if the numbers are against us, even if the narrative is not favorable. And this notion, and I'm going to end on this notion that Allah is ultimately the one pulling the strings, Allah is ultimately the one in charge, gives you a lot of comfort. When you realize that the greatest superpowers, the most advanced infrastructures, the most strategic armies, put all of that on the side. Yes, from a worldly perspective, they have the asbab, they have the causes, but I will never lose hope because I know that no matter how effective a cause is, the cause of the cause is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if He wants, it can be harmful. But if He wants, قُلْنَا يَا نَارُ كُونِي بَرْدًا وَسَلَامًا عَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ, if He wants, those armies will mean nothing if that is the hukum of Allah. And it's very easy to see this notion creep up in our communities where in our back of our minds we believe La ilaha illallah, but then when we start talking about actual events, we don't truly feel that conviction that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, it can go against all odds. So we need to work on our yaqeen, we need to work on our tawakkul, we need to work on our conviction in the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that will not only set us up for the akhirah, but it gives you a lot of peace of mind, it relieves you a lot of stress, and protects you from a lot of anguish in this life, because you know no matter what happens, it's in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And like I said, especially given the political events that are happening and people feel very down and heartbroken and they don't know how to cope and process everything. Yes, there's a worldly process and we're going to go through that. But remember, ultimately, musabbibul asbab, the one who puts the cause into effect is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala strengthen our yaqeen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to never waver in our faith. And may we remember that He alone is the one who is in charge of everything. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.